You know what I love about election season? The timing. It's incredible. For 4 years, a pothole can sit in the middle of the road like it pays rates and taxes. Nobody notices. Then election season arrives, and suddenly politicians can spot that same pothole from low Earth orbit. Amazing. It's like communities only become visible once there's a vote inside them. Every election, it's the same story: new slogans, new posters, new promises, same potholes. Let's talk about it.
MitchCraft Online, come on in, join the talk, let's begin.
Welcome back to MitchCraft Online. I'm Mitch. I've been thinking about this video for a while now, and here's the funny thing. I started off wanting to talk about infrastructure, then I wanted to talk about elections, then I remembered a TikTok I made about the Gautrain. Then I stumbled across a report about millions of South Africans going hungry. Then I found myself looking at photographs of Johannesburg from decades ago and comparing them to what parts of the city look like today. At first, it felt like a bunch of completely unrelated stories until I realized they're actually asking the same exact question. Not who's going to win the election, a much better question. What does good governance actually look like? Because everyone talks about it, very few people define it. And I think that's where we've gone wrong. Not because politicians start making promises, that's expected. It's because of when they start making promises. Have you noticed that? The timing is almost poetic. Suddenly there are community meetings. Suddenly there are inspections. Suddenly somebody remembers the road outside your house looks like it lost a fight with a meteor shower. Funny. It didn't seem quite so urgent 18 months ago, or 2 years ago, or three, but now there is a microphone involved. Now there is a camera, and now there are campaign posters. You know what's funny? Election posters always look so optimistic. Have you ever noticed that? Every candidate is smiling, every single one. Apparently, nobody has ever campaigned while mildly inconvenienced. Not one of them has ever looked into the camera and gone, listen, this place is a mess, but at least we're going to try. No, it's always the same polished smile, the same carefully chosen slogan, the same promises that this time things will be different. And maybe they really do believe that. I'm not even questioning people's intentions. Intentions are cheap. Competence, not so much. See, I don't actually think South Africa has a promise problem. We've got promises coming out of our ears. Every election arrives with enough promises to build Rome before lunch. Jobs, housing, safer communities, reliable electricity, better schools, working municipalities. We've heard them all before, which got me thinking, maybe we've been measuring the wrong thing. Maybe the question isn't who made the biggest promises. Maybe the question should be who's got the best track record of maintaining the things we've already built. Because here's the thing: building something is exciting. You get to cut a ribbon, smile for the cameras, shake a few hands, maybe unveil a plaque that nobody will read after Tuesday. Maintenance is boring. Nobody holds a press conference because a water pump has worked properly for another year. Nobody cuts a ribbon because the traffic lights still function, which is kind of weird, especially around where I live. Nobody celebrates the fact that a bridge didn't collapse, but that's governance, not the announcement, not the ceremony. The Tuesday morning, 6 years from now, when everything is still working. And I think somewhere along the way, we started confusing announcements with achievements. There's a difference, a big one. Can I ask you something? When was the last time you drove through your own town, not just your town, your actual neighborhood, and thought to yourself, you know what? Somebody is really looking after this place. Not because a politician said they would, because you could actually see it. Think about that for a second, because that question is going to matter over the next few months. And I don't think enough people are asking it.
Ask too many questions, man.
You know, I've been looking at old photographs of Johannesburg, not because I'm nostalgic. I don't miss that dial up internet, floppy disks, or wearing jeans 3 sizes too big. But there's something fascinating about looking at a city through time. You realize cities are a bit like people, they wear their history on their faces. Look at these photographs, for instance. This wasn't some fantasy version of Johannesburg. This was Johannesburg. People worked here, families shopped here, businesses invested here. There was a sense that the city was going somewhere. Now, look at it. And here's the thing, I'm not showing you these pictures because I think every building needs to be polished until it sparkles. Cities age. That's very normal. But there's a difference between aging and being abandoned. There's a difference between character and neglect, because buildings didn't just wake up one morning and decide they've had enough.
I've had enough.
Neglect is cumulative. A broken window becomes two, two becomes 10, maintenance gets delayed, budgets disappear, projects stall, responsibility gets passed around like a hot potato nobody wants to catch, and before you know it, an entire block has become a monument to the phrase. We'll get to it later. Here's what struck me. We often describe these places as urban decay. I don't actually like that phrase because decay sounds natural, like leaves falling off a tree. This isn't natural. This is visible consequences of years of decisions, or sometimes years of indecision. Every cracked wall, every boarded up shop, every abandoned building is telling you a story, not about architecture, about governance. And then I started wondering, when exactly do we notice that something is falling apart? Seriously, think about it. Is it when the first pothole appears? Probably not. The second? Still no. The fifth? Maybe. See, decline is sneaky. It doesn't usually arrive with dramatic music and a flashing neon sign. It arrives quietly. A road isn't repaired this year. A street light stays broken. The grass around a municipal building gets a little longer. A park isn't maintained. A bridge inspection gets postponed. None of these things feel like a national crisis on their own, but stack them together over 10, 15, 20 years. And suddenly people start saying, what happened to this place? As if it all happened overnight. It didn't. That's the uncomfortable part. Countries rarely collapse in a single spectacular moment. More often, they slowly become comfortable with standards that would have horrified them a generation ago. And that's where I think we've become a little too forgiving. Not of mistakes, because mistakes do happen,
I've made a huge mistake.
of patterns, because there is a difference. A government can make a mistake, every government does. But when the same problem keep showing up election after election, budget after budget, speech after speech, at some point you have to stop calling it bad luck. This is why I keep coming back to infrastructure. People hear that word and immediately think roads or bridges, but infrastructure is so much bigger than that. It's the environment that quietly determines how your day unfolds. Did the traffic lights work? Did the tap run? Could the ambulance get there? Did the train arrive? Could a business open its doors? Infrastructure isn't glamorous. Nobody wakes up excited about storm water drains until they stop working. Then suddenly, they're the most interesting things in the world. And maybe that's our problem. We only seem to notice maintenance when maintenance stops. So here's the question I've been wrestling with. When politicians ask for another 5 years, should we judge them by what they're promising to build next, or by what they've managed to keep alive until now? Because I think those are two very different conversations, and one of them is a lot harder to answer. You know what I find fascinating? The Gautrain. Not because it's a train, let's be honest, trains aren't usually the most exciting topic in the world. Although, if you've ever tried explaining load shedding to someone overseas, you'll know South Africa has a unique talent for making infrastructure strangely entertaining. But the Gautrain? Gautrain is different. A while ago, I made a TikTok about the Gautrain because there was news that government would eventually assume full ownership, and the reaction online was predictable. People panicked not because trains are scary, because people were scared of what might happen to the train. That stuck with me because nobody was actually arguing about rail transport. They were arguing about trust. Think about that. One of the few pieces of public infrastructure that consistently works. And the conversation immediately becomes, please don't break this one too. That says something. Governments all over the world own rail systems: London, Paris, Tokyo. Ownership isn't the issue here. Competence is. And I think we've reached a point in South Africa where functioning infrastructure feels so unusual that we've started treating it like a miracle. It isn't a miracle. It should be normal. The Gautrain shouldn't be exceptional. It should be the standard we are trying to beat. Imagine that, living in a country where a train arriving on time isn't considered breaking news. While I was researching this video, I came across a report that genuinely stopped me in my tracks. Millions of South Africans go to bed hungry, and more than 1,000 children died from malnutrition last year. Those numbers are uncomfortable. They should be. But here's what bothered me even more. I don't think we always connect those stories to governance. We hear malnutrition and our brains immediately go to healthcare or poverty, charity. But it's bigger than that. Think about everything that has to work before food reaches a family. Farmers need reliable water. Roads need to move produce, rail needs to move freight, electricity keeps food cold. Businesses create jobs so people can afford to buy it. Infrastructure isn't just steel and concrete, it's opportunity, it's dignity. It's whether a parent has to choose between electricity and groceries at the end of the month. And suddenly, this isn't just a conversation about potholes anymore. It's about the quality of everyday life. Which brings me back to election season because every party is out there telling us what they'll do next. Build this, fix that, create these jobs, reduce those queues. And maybe some of those promises are completely genuine. Kind of hope they are. South Africa could do with a bit of good news, but here's the thing. I've realized I don't actually care how polished the campaign is. I don't care how catchy the slogan is. I don't care how dramatic the launch event is because I wrote an article a while back called When Branding Can Hide Bad Governance. It was about organizations, but the more I think about it, the more I realize it applies just as much to politics. Branding can only carry you so far. Eventually, reality catches up. A slogan doesn't fill a pothole. A campaign poster doesn't repair a burst pipe. A manifesto doesn't stop a building from falling apart. Performance does. So maybe, just maybe, we've been asking the wrong question every election. Not who has the best promises. We've had promises for decades. Maybe the better question is who has left behind the best evidence? Not the best speech, the best evidence. Show me the road. Show me the school. Show me the water treatment plant that's still working. Show me the municipality that people are actually proud of. Show me the infrastructure that's still serving communities years after the ribbon cutting ceremony, because that's where governance lives, not in campaign adverts, in outcomes. South Africa doesn't need fewer dreamers. It needs more builders, and more importantly, more maintainers, because building something gets you applause. Maintaining it for 30 years earns trust, and trust might just be the most valuable piece of infrastructure we've lost. Anyway, those are my thoughts. I want to hear what you think. When you look around your own town or city, what tells the story of South Africa better than anything else? I genuinely love to know. If you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to like it if you did, subscribe if you haven't already, share it with someone who still believes election posters can fix potholes. This is MitchCraft Online. Question everything, especially the things everyone else just accepts.
MitchCraft Online, come on in, join the talk, let's begin.